When I found out it was 208 years away for gender equality, I quite simply couldn't believe it because I think somewhere in my mind I thought we were maybe 60 years away.
This is Melinda Gates. She's got a plan to get us to gender equality in our lifetime.
I started.
Really? She has a plan to get us to gender equality in our lifetime. It will not be possible to get to gender equality in even 208 years, let alone in our lifetimes. We're not suffering from gender inequality the way that they think we are. So let's go ahead and dive into this video. But before we do, make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. And find me on Twitter. I'm the Anti-Woke Warrior on Twitter. Sometimes I tweet stuff. You never know what you might come across in one of my tweets. So let's get into this.
In the US today, women make up about half the workforce, but we still aren't earning as much as men, rising as high, or having an equal voice in decision making. When are we going to see gender equality? We asked business.
Okay, so the thing that they're missing here with this gender equality stuff that they don't recognize that they're missing is they're basing gender equality on political and economic equality only, exclusively. Those are the metrics they're using. They say on the World Economic Forum that they're looking at other things as well. And maybe they are because it is the World Economic Forum, so they're comparing that to the entire world. But the fact of the matter is women already have more rights, fewer responsibilities than men have. They don't make as much money as men do, but guess who pays for women? I mean, men have always financially supported women. Guess, how many laws there are protecting women as compared to how many laws there are protecting men. There's more laws protecting women. So let's go ahead and see what else they have to say here.
The students around Boston what they thought.
I feel like to actually get to real gender parity will probably take 30 to 50 years.
I think it'll definitely take another 10 years.
I really hope it'll be in the next 5 to 10 years.
In 2025. 2030.
I think that we are 50 plus years out.
I don't think equality will ever happen.
Well, at the
This one is interesting. She says never, and I agree with her. It's never going to happen. But then, watch this clip here.
I hate talking about gender parity. Nobody should have to talk about gender parity. It should just be a natural thing that happens.
So she says that it's never going to happen, yet she's frustrated that we have to talk about it. It's like, if it's never going to happen, then why would you even talk about it? Just be like, it's never going to happen. That's all we need to know about it. Let's move on with our day. But these people, and most people in general, I think, you come here because you want to think critically. You want to analyze what I say and, decide whether or not I'm right. That's great. But most people, it seems like they just swallow what the mainstream media tells them, and that's it. So let's see what else they have to say here.
Rate we're moving in the US, research says we're not going to see gender equality for another 208 years.
Okay, so this was the factoid that was brought up, and I use the word factoid loosely, in the beginning with Melinda Gates. And it says it's the Global Gender Gap Report from the World Economic Forum. I took the liberty of finding that report. Here it is. This is the Global Gender Gap Report from 2018. And I looked through here. I could not find that statistic that says it's going to take 208 years. If we go to here, Data Explorer, we can see how unequal some countries are. So down here, as far as being in the black, nobody's in the black, which I don't even know what zero means. Like you're not at all equal. I don't know. How do you determine what is not at all equal? What does that look like? Like women are slaves? Like literally they are just enslaved, period. They're born and they're slaves. And they're not even allowed to speak to anybody who isn't a slave unless they're spoken to first. Is that how that works? I don't know. I mean, they have to define their terms, and they're not doing that. So we can't even really get a good gauge of what is equal and what is not equal. But if you look at the United States out of 1 being the maximum, they have a 0.72. So they're 72%. They're C minus, according to standard grading practices. They're 72% the way there. Okay, you can look at some of these beige countries, like you get no data on these things. That's what these beige countries are. And then you get this white country, Yemen is 49%, almost 50% equal. Then you get other countries that are very equal, like Iceland, which is 85.8, almost 86% equal. Look at that. They're still not equal, though. Men and women are still not equal. And the sad thing is these people think it's all women have the deficit and men have the advantage, and it's not true. Men do not have the advantage when it comes to this sort of stuff. Yes, okay, we hold more positions in politics. Yes, we tend to earn more money. But that's just the luck of the gender that you're born into. Men are more ambitious than women. We have to be. To mate, men have to be more ambitious. You see this throughout the entire animal kingdom. Look at the bowerbird. The bowerbird is a perfect example. You can look that up if you want to. The bowerbird is a bird that it collects all sorts of different objects, that it finds man-made objects and rocks and things like that that it thinks will impress a female, and makes this very elaborate nest out of these different things, just so it can say, look, I did all this work. I'm capable of doing all this work. Have babies with me. Let's go back here and take a look at some of this other. I want to look at the shareable infographics here. Now, this is a lot of just, oh, look, see, Iceland is doing the best. Yay, okay. And they have all these charts here, and I'm not worried about that stuff. I want to get down here to the bottom where we see this image right here where it says, hey, look, the average actually to get women to parity is going to be 108 years, not 208 years. I don't know where they got the 208-year figure from. I can't find it on here, like I said. If you look at North America, it's 165 years, not 208 years. But again, they don't even define what imparity is. What does imparity look like? Can you tell me what true imparity? Women and men are just not equal. It seems to me that if you're not equal, you're not equal. It's an on-off switch. Yeah, you could go in there. Oh, there's varying degrees of equality. Yeah, you could say that. You could talk about that. But still, it's an on-off switch. You're either equal or you're not. Just a bunch of hooey on this website. So let's go back to the video.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay. 200 years.
200 years? I wouldn't even be alive.
Well, it's a good thing that you already have more rights and fewer responsibilities than men do. It's great for you then. Oh my gosh, you tend to work in lower paid jobs. You tend not to hold political power. Oh, direct political power, that is. You have voting power because you have voting majority. And we can see that too. Here's the population of the U.S. Well, this is the whole world, actually. The population of the world by gender, 51.1% is female. So in a country like the United States where you get to vote, you would have majority voting power, and then you could vote in whoever you want. So you can vote in politicians who are female-centric, that give you more rights, that give you fewer responsibilities, which is what has happened over the decades. And so now that's reflected in our laws. So back to the video.
When I found out it was 208 years away for gender equality, I quite simply couldn't believe it because I think somewhere in my mind I thought we were maybe 60 years away.
This is Melinda Gates. She's got a plan to get us to gender equality in our lifetime.
I started to say to myself, my gosh, we have to do something about this now.
So what's slowing us down?
More women are working than ever in the United States, but we aren't represented equally, and we're not represented in the really key sectors such as public office, academia, tech, investing, entrepreneurship, media.
Okay, so it's important that we take a look at this here. They say public office, there you go, political power. Academia, that's not true. There are more female teachers, there are more female administrators in schools and colleges than there are men. Tech, okay, well, women don't want to go into tech. We've seen the meme. So, I mean, this says it all right here. Women aren't going into STEM. They're going into gender studies and then complaining that there aren't women in STEM. Investing. Okay, well, women just aren't interested in investing. That's a do-it-yourself kind of thing. There's like no barrier to it going into investing. I invest, and I am like by no means some financial wizard. I just went out and watched some YouTube videos and read a couple articles and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so far, everything's going well. That doesn't mean that it will for you, though. Just let you know that you could fail at all this stuff. Entrepreneurship. Again, see, women don't have to do anything to acquire a mate. That is what all human behavior basically comes down to is, can I survive long enough to reproduce? That's what all animal behavior is. We can look at the peacock, a very famous example of this. The peacock goes out and evolved this elaborate tail to attract the female. And then in media, there aren't as many women in media. Okay, so there aren't as many actresses. And also women tend not to get lead roles, but people don't want to see female leads. It's not interesting. It's not nearly as interesting as watching male leads. And there's some data to prove that female leads can be just as interesting, etc., blah, blah, blah. I know. I'm not going to get into all that. That's not what this video is about. But I just saw Raya and the Last Dragon. It was totally woke, and it was really not that good, honestly. The overall story wasn't bad, but they just had to inject it with wokeness and modern day sensibilities, which I'm like, this is just so annoying. And you know what, the movie would have been fine if the main character had been male. Instead, it had to be a strong female. Has to be a strong female. It's like, it could have been just as good with a strong male. In fact, it could have been better with a strong male, because I wouldn't have had stupid wokeism shoved in my face, and I wouldn't have had stupid teenage girl drama shoved in my face. But notice how these jobs tend to be higher paid, especially if you're looking at tech, successful investing, successful entrepreneurship, and media. Those media's like really high paid. Academia can be high paid. Public office is often high paid now in the United States, especially for the corrupt politicians we have. Nancy Pelosi is worth over $20 million. And you're looking at like easy intellectual jobs. They don't want to see actual parity. If they want to see actual parity, they'd be like, there's no women in garbage. There's no women in sewage work. There's no women in mining. There's no women in construction. There's no women in energy production. There's no women in these really important jobs that keep society functioning. But these fluffy, after the base has been created, these fluffy, high-paid jobs that are easy to do, we need women in those jobs. I don't want them to break a nail, but, I want them to get paid well for just sitting in an air-conditioned office and thinking. And I really don't, other than my wife, I don't care about the thoughts or opinions of very many women. Moving on.
These are having an outsized impact in the United States. And if women don't have equal representation there, we don't have seats at the table always on setting policies, making funding decisions, deciding what the workplace in the future should be.
Deciding what the workplace of the future should be. So women should not be in the workplace, really. That shouldn't be their focus anyway. Women have always worked, but their focus should be on, raising the children. That should be the primary focus there. We have this weird society where the men and the women work, and then they give their children to a babysitter, a child care provider of some sort. It doesn't make any sense. Why is it that the parents don't want to raise the children and raise them to be happy and productive adults? We've gone the wrong way with this. Women have always worked. I know that this is nothing new, and women do deserve to be paid equally for the same type of work. Basically, if you're producing 100 units of X product, and so is a man, then you deserve to be paid the same as the man. But somebody has to raise our kids. Why is it that we insist that women work? As far as equality is concerned, I know that in the past there was differences between male and female, what they had equal access to. So a lot of this equality has benefited men, but primarily it's about benefiting women, and we see this focus heavily on we need to give women equal rights, and women already have better rights than men. So
Inequality isn't some big abstract concept.
yes, it is. It's a big abstract concept that you people made up because you already have everything and then even more.
It's a very real challenge women face in school and throughout their careers.
When I entered college, I was actually quite surprised, particularly in my computer science classes, how few women were studying computer science. And then when I entered business school just right after undergraduate, again, I was kind of surprised how many of the women weren't going after the finance jobs that men were going after coming out of business school. Then it, for the first time, really started to be on my mind about the difference between men and women, even in the college and business school level.
So there you go. You just answered your own question. The reason that we don't have women in tech, the reason that we don't have women in finance is because they don't take those majors in college. And your argument will probably be, oh, well, society pushes them away from that sort of thing. Society tells them, no, women shouldn't do that. They should be homemakers. They should be childcare providers. Society doesn't do that, especially in a free society like the United States. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do. If you want to go be a scientist and you're a girl, go be a scientist. I'm not going to stop you. There's plenty of them out there, so.
I had my first week of classes of my sophomore year of college. My second class of the day was my higher level finance 3301 class. And at first it was me and then a few guys, not anything abnormal. And then there were more guys. And then the professor showed up and class started and I was the only girl in the room. Maybe I looked uncomfortable because I was the only girl in the room, or maybe it was because I don't like professors that cold call on you. But he said, Kate's really wondering what she got herself into being in this class. And every single guy in the classroom, including the professor, laughed.
Oh my gosh, and you survived that? How did you ever get through that? If that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you, honey, count yourself lucky. And I had a professor when I was in college, and he would point to me all the time and say, he doesn't believe this. He doesn't, he points out that this is wrong and blah, blah, because, I've always been a critical thinker. We were studying ancient Eastern Asian religions, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What the heck? And it wasn't the main focus of the class. If it was the main focus of the class, then I'd be like, okay, I got to just suck it up and understand that religion doesn't make sense. So
she made me feel so discouraged, so uncomfortable.
I managed a team before I went on maternity leave, and they did awesome while I was out. And instead of that being a reflection of how well they had been trained and mentored to enable their success, it was seen as I was no longer needed.
Yeah, I'm betting that team was made up entirely or almost entirely of men as well, because you are not needed. Most of the time, a manager is not necessary. And if a person is going to be like, oh, we need you to discuss things with clients, and then a manager has to step in and like smooth things over, okay, that's the situation for a manager. That's good. But otherwise, a person should be able to walk into a job. That's why you hired them. They should be able to walk into that job and know how to do it. That's why you hired them. They don't need your guidance to push them along. Like if somebody sat me down in front of a computer and said, hey, you have to model for 3D animation, you have to model these 50 different things. I'd be like, okay, I'm on it. Boom, they would be modeled. Yeah, I know how to do my job. So I don't need you managing me.
Clearly, we've got a problem. So what do we do about it? Here's what Melinda says business leaders need to do now.
They need to look at their workplace and say, is this working for families and for women?
Well, should a workplace be a place for families? I know what she's saying, but you know, she needs to be like, is there work-family balance here? Or is there work-life balance here? Is it possible for parents to see to their children's needs while maintaining their career? And it doesn't need to work for women. You want to list equality, it should work for people. It should just work for people. If you can't step up to the plate and do the job that a man does, then don't do that job. I'm sorry, that's just the reality of the situation. So I heard a story, an anecdotal sort of thing, that oil companies don't hire female secretaries to work on the offices that are located on the oil fields because the women don't want to or just are physically incapable of going out into the oil fields and talking to the workers, which sometimes has to happen. So they hire male secretaries for that. That's just the reality that we live in. I don't know what to tell you.
No, most women have families. And so do we have a true paid family medical leave policy? And are we making sure that women and men are taking it? Do we have the right networks for women? Are we creating pathways into these jobs for women? Are we making sure that once they're here, they're supported both in terms of mentorship, but also sponsorship?
Notice her right hand here. She's the handing me the money thing because she's talking about sponsorship into these positions. She's like, giving women money. It's a thing with her that she's not seeing in herself, that she thinks that women should just be given money, and which is probably what happened in her case because she did marry who was at one time the richest man in the world. So I'm sure he gave her a lot of money. Did you earn all that money there, Melinda? No, I didn't think so. But yeah, it's not about women doing their job. It's about giving them a handout. It's never about, hey, look, this woman has knocked it out of the park. She's amazing. She gets promoted. She gets better positions. She gets more money, etc. It's about giving her things. I used to work in a hospital. Guess what we had in that hospital? It's going to shock you. There were female doctors in the hospital. I know, crazy notion, isn't it? There were female doctors there. And you could point out, there's more male doctors. Yes, I know. But the fact of the matter is women can go after this and they can have a high-paid career. There's nothing stopping them. And there were no barriers to entry to that other than you had to have a medical degree and you had to be licensed.
Into really key roles.
In practice, this could be managers looking at the data to see how well women are represented in their companies, offering more paid internships in key sectors like tech or...
Go back here for this one here. How well women are represented in their companies. Well, what if there's no women qualified to do the type of work that you do? We just have to put them in there though, right? That's how it works. Because otherwise you create a boys club, right? Oh my goodness, it's so terrible. Only men work at this job. I don't know what to do about that. Oh, so sad for you. Look, if you're not qualified to do the job, you shouldn't be hired to do it. I don't care what your gender is.
The data to see how well women are represented in their companies, offering more paid internships in key sectors like tech or government, making sure women are getting the challenging, worthwhile assignments, not just the busy work.
What are the barriers that hold women back? Where do we have bias in our systems and in our workplace? And how do we tear that down and change things so women have the same opportunities as men?
Women already have the same opportunities as men, and they have more rights and fewer responsibilities. So you're done. You're done with that statement there. When I talk to the women in animation, it's an organization. If you're interested in going into animation and you're a female, you can get scholarships from them. They're not very big scholarships, but hey, every penny helps. They will tell me that no, we want to see 50-50 parity in the animation industry. But I'm like, there's no women going into animation. That's the problem. And then they'll say to me, what are you talking about? I went to animation school and it was all women. That's all it was women there. And I'm like, no, you're either lying or you're delusional, because I went to 2 animation schools and I've worked at 2 animation schools. And there are not women in animation schools, okay? There are some, but the majority is men. The big idea, so by 2030, they're going to see measurable results. And so if they have their way, then there's going to be fewer rights for men. There's going to be more responsibilities put on men. And we're already burdened enough as it is. Men are already checking out of society entirely. They're just like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm going to leave this country and let you guys all fend for yourself. What do you think is going to happen when we have this situation where women have all the power in the workplace and men have none? It's just more of this woke garbage that doesn't make any sense. It's really scary to me because they're trying to manipulate the world to be something that it's not. Just let people be people. Let's let women raise their children and let men do the heavy lifting. Why do women need to go to work all the time? It's fine if you want to have a job. I'm not going to stop you from having a job. And a lot of times women need to work, and a lot of times you need to have 2-income families. But we raised this country up to a place where women didn't need to work. That was the big achievement. The big accomplishment. We got to the point where women didn't need to work. European women have always worked. They've always worked, going way, way back. In the Middle Ages, they had to work to survive. So we got to a place where, hey, you don't have to work anymore. Isn't that great? You can actually raise your children. You can actually be a mother. No, you'd rather go to work and then complain about how it's not good enough. Oh my goodness, it's not good enough for me. You see that guy, he makes more money than me. That's the boss. So he shouldn't make more money than me. I'm a girl. I deserve the best. No, you don't deserve anything more than anybody else, but you've been told your whole life that you're a special little princess, so therefore you think you deserve to walk into a job and be making $200,000 a year. That's just not reality. Anyway, that's all I got for this time. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.